Lions, if they still exist now. I don't know if they exist.
Ben, did you know Matt got a full scholarship to, was it NYU?
Yeah.
For singing.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty impressive.
NYU's all, yeah. When you go like the Tisch School, Fine Arts, they know what's going on.
He won't sing on stream though.
That's very impressive. Man of many
standard
talents.
route.
OMG says Matt's got pipes. Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL Deeper Dive. Too many shows, forget the names. It is Showdown slate, though. Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm stoked to be here. I like bad games. Ben Ross is wearing off on me, that's for sure. Anyway, I'm Dave Loughran. On the Twitters at Laffy_D. You see it right there, LOUGHY_D. Hit your boy up. And while you're at it, you know the drill. Hit up Ben Rasa at JazzRaz DFS, joining me as he does every Thursday, and Matt Savoca at Draftaholic, joining me again today. But this is fun because now Matt and I have broken down almost every game on the slate. We just need Sunday and Monday at this Sunday night and Monday night at this point. But Ben, I got to say, I was watching the betting show with you and Aton today. Good show. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Appreciate that.
Sharp analysis as always. Check out the Awesemo odds channel, by the way, if you're a bettor. You should be at least. And I couldn't believe the hatred that was spewed from Aton's mouth about this game. I mean, he came around later on, but this is kind of exciting. And call me crazy, I think Jacksonville could score some points tonight.
Yeah, he'll learn. Like you said, it's an acquired taste to watch this garbage, but at the same time, I love games like this. I think there's a bigger edge both in the betting and DFS market. And me and Matt were talking before the show, we were joking about Cincinnati, and he said, and he's absolutely right, they're probably going to move to 3-1. So all jokes aside, like this team is very, very relevant in the grand scheme of things. And the Jaguars, they haven't won since week 1 of last year. It's been a long, long time. So maybe they could break the streak tonight.
Matt, you on the Jacksonville Jaguars money line tonight on the road?
I am not, believe it or not. But hey, the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing for something. It just may not be positive. I believe it is a NFL record 20 straight losses. That is in sight here for the Jaguars. I think they continue that cold streak tonight.
Wait, what would tonight make it? How many straight? 18, 19?
I believe it's 17 or 18.
18, I think, yeah.
They lost, the last game they won was what, week 2 of last year?
I thought it was week 1.
Oh, it was week 1.
Gardner Minshew beat the Colts, who then went on to a great little playoff run, and then they haven't won since.
Okay, so this would be 19.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
They're 0-3. They lost 15 straight.
Yeah.
They're getting dangerously close.
We're really close now.
Okay, so next week, just hammer the Jags narrative style, right? No, I don't think we should. They're a bad team, but at the same time, I'm gonna eat my words for this, but like I don't think they're Jets level bad. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong. They got smoked by Houston, but no one gives credit to Tyrod Taylor. He's actually played really well until he got hurt. Whatever. Besides the point, we'll break all of that down and jump into all of it. As you can see on the side of the screen, we got everything to cover today. We're even going to build a lineup, and we'll hit on some top props, give our final predictions towards the end of the game as well. And hey, happy to have everybody here with us. We got 400 plus watching right now. Just kick this off. So that's a nice start. And hey, very, very simple, just simple request, easy request. Let's get to 100 likes, 100 likes, right? We're at 75. We got 25 to go to 100. And then I'll stop asking at least for another 15 minutes. So appreciate you guys. And Ben, I think a thank you is in order because we just hit 60,000 subscribers today.
Absolutely. Another milestone for us. Couldn't do it without you guys. So exciting. And now you get Lofty to start saying, let's get to 65 because I know how you operate.
Oh, you can't spoil my line. I was just,
I just wanted to get out in front of it. I wanted to get out in front of it. It was really, really cool. We have some exciting things on that note that we're going to get to later in their show. But yeah, to see the 60K, honestly, never thought we would get there. And the speed that we did it just makes it that much more exciting.
There's a stupid, corny line of like, oh, you never have to hear me ask for 60,000 subs again. Let's get to 70, baby.
Yep. Oh, you see, you skipped 65. You just went right to 70.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, we're
Okay.
aggressive at this point. Shamwow, welcome to Team Awesemo. This dude's intense, man. Like he just straight is. Jordan's laughing. Jordan Climber. I mean, straight dedication. Comes into every stream and just throws out Billy Mays lines and ShamWow lines. It's impressive stuff. What flex tape? Flex seal. Just straight infomercial throwbacks. Gotta love it. I mean, it's dedication. Anyway, Matt, let's die. He was doing that on our show today for two
He was.
straight
He
hours.
was. Yeah. I saw this boat in half.
Oh, what a good one. Got a fan boat out in the marsh covered up in duct tape. It's like, we're good, baby. All right, let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. But before we do, Matt, let me ask you a little strategy here. You've got 7-point spread, 46-point total, Jags with a sub 20 implied total in this game, but I think it could stay competitive. Maybe I'm just not bought into the Bengals enough yet. And I'll admit it if I'm wrong and they are actually legit on both sides of the field. But is there any strategy you take into a game like this where you've got a quarterback that has, just thrown multiple picks in every game, but has that pedigree, and week one at least had a decent game based on volume alone, and then another team where the volume of passing for the Bengals has actually been very low this year, and Joe Mixon is second in rushing attempts in the league?
Yeah, I mean, so the reason we have a pretty low total here is for obvious reasons. We have two inexperienced quarterbacks. We have turnover-prone teams. We have a team that hasn't won in over a year. But the thing that really sticks out for how any of these units have really transformed themselves over the last season is the Cincinnati defensive unit that currently ranks top 5 in yards per carry allowed, yards per attempt allowed, and points per play allowed. And I know they haven't faced exactly a murderer's row of offensive opponents here, but we don't expect the Jaguars to suddenly come to life. As you were saying here, we have a turnover-prone team here and a defense that could theoretically take advantage of it here.
Yeah, I think it's possible for sure. I guess, Ben, and I know if you're looking at like matchup adjusted defensive rankings, the Bengals still grade out pretty well. I'm not denying that, but I think there's still some suspicion here that maybe, and Matt Kajeski talked about this a lot. I mean, that guy knows the personnel for every player on every team, like 53 deep. And you just look at the starters in the secondary. They're all journeymen from other teams that couldn't hack it on their own starting lineups.
Yeah, Chidobe Awuzie.
Yeah, Apple.
I think it's a product of, the Bears, the Steelers, and against Minnesota had some success. They moved the ball in that game. That game went to overtime. The last couple, this defense has definitely been good. And I'm not saying the Jaguars are going to test them in new ways, but I think the Jaguars' problem is that they're wildly, erratic in turnovers. I do think they will make some plays. And I actually think the Jaguars will put up some points. I don't think they're going to be an anemic offense. I just think they could have 2 or 3 crucial mistakes that really kill their chances of winning the game.
Yeah, it's very possible. So let's dive into that. And Jordan, I guess it's as good a time as ever to mention that we're going to be doing this giveaway, right? For 60K subs. We want to give back, right? That's what we do around here. We give back. And, charitably, we want to give away 6 also. Is it monthly or weekly? What are we doing? Month? 6 Awesemo Plus Platinum monthly subscriptions? All right. And all anyone needs to do. So should we wait until after the Jags to start this? Okay. Sounds good to me then. Let's start with the Jags then, Matt. 7-point dogs again, 19.5 point total. You can see it on the sidebar. I think the biggest question here is, how do you feel about captaining Trevor Lawrence when you have 2 receivers on this team that make up 65+% of the air yards in DJ Shark and Marvin Jones? And one of them has a low floor and a very high ceiling in Shark. The other one's just been consistent throughout. And Jones, pretty high target shares on these guys. It's one of these teams that isn't good, hasn't been able to move the ball, but does, unlike Houston last Thursday, right, where you're talking about Anthony Miller and Chris Conley, actually have some decent weapons with some skill.
Yeah, I do think the Jaguars' receiving weapons are at least average in the NFL, probably a little above average here. But do I feel really strongly about captaining Trevor Lawrence? No, not really. I did notice as I was researching this game earlier today that the projection difference for the quarterbacks here is actually quite large. It's about 5 points here. So if I'm looking at a cash game lineup and I can only fit one quarterback, I'm really leaning heavily towards Burrow. Now, I obviously could have a situation where I want to fit both in, but if I'm putting a quarterback at captain, especially on DraftKings, that's really going to limit my choices there. So to answer your question, while there's some upside there, and on FanDuel, when you want the highest raw score, and so that's typically a quarterback, that's fine, but it's not a priority for me.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in line with that. I'm interested to see Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't really showcased any rushing ability. The last couple games, he's getting more and more there. If he develops that and becomes a pseudo, I'm not going to say he's going to be Daniel Jones ceiling, but if he can give you some of that, that really helps. Because as we talked about last week, when you're isolating the yards on the ground, that's very lucrative for a captain spot where Joe Burrow is not going to be running at all. So I get it there. I still don't think I want to do it. I mean, digging into our ownership right now, Lawrence is not going to be a super popular captain. We have him sub 10% in the captain spot, but at the same time, I think there's just better options on this game. So definitely not my preferred captain tonight.
I wouldn't say he's my preferred captain either, but I am, I guess, a little bit more interested than you guys. And only because, if you look at Monday night's game, Jalen Hurts was, I think it was the optimal captain, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I believe so.
I believe he was.
And the obvious response to that for most people would be, well, yeah, but Jalen Hurts has rushing upside. And my response to that would be, well, he really didn't do much on the ground. He had 35 yards, which is, sure, I guess more than you expect from Trevor Lawrence, but he had 27 and 21 over his last 2 games. And Hurts was playing from behind all game. So if it does develop, and I don't think the likelihood is all that low, into one of these games like it was against Houston, where they're down a lot of points early on and they're forced to throw the football. Because granted, you look at that Arizona game, the score doesn't tell the whole story. It was actually pretty close because of that Agnew missed kick return that Ben loves.
Stupidest rule in all of sports.
And then Arizona returned one pick 6. So I don't think it's the craziest idea. And I wouldn't be saying that if you didn't have guys like Jones and Shark, who I actually think are decent. And then Laviska Shenault, who, his yards per reception is second lowest in the league. It's bad. But at the same time, he could get some looks and break one, kind of like Matt and I talked about earlier today with, who was it? Jalen Waddle, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So Jalen Waddle, I mean, I don't know, Matt. I'm not enamored with Lawrence. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating just throwing him in all captain lineups, but I think as bad as this game is and as low as their total is, we might be looking at it as a team that can't score. And I'm not sold yet that they're as bad as they've looked, even though Lawrence is a rookie and he has looked pretty bad. And to be fair, interceptions can be good for quarterbacks, especially if they're run back for touchdowns.
Yeah, that's fair. And, the garbage time narrative is certainly there too. If they get down big, all of a sudden the second half, they're not going to suddenly just run the ball. They're going to give him extra reps, especially, for a rookie quarterback, that even in garbage time, that's going to be invaluable time.
What are your thoughts on the receivers here? Sorry, that's actually where I was trying to lead with that, and I just kind of messed it up, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think Marvin Jones and DJ Chark, they performed slightly under their opportunity-based expectations. So theoretically, if Trevor Lawrence gets it together this week, there could be some positive regression here. I was looking at the projections here. There's about 36 DraftKings points projected for the 3 of Shenault, Chark, and Jones. And I think right now it's the median projection has 60% going Jones's way, and then the remaining 40% going Jones's way, and then the remaining 60% split evenly amongst Chark and Shenault. I think there's a lot of variance here. I think one of the things you've got to look at is Marvin Jones being used heavily in the red zone. I think he has 4 red zone targets compared to no one else on the team has more than 1. Mm-hmm. So that could be signal at this point. And I think that's why you see him getting the largest production here, but that's definitely not a guarantee. I do like the idea in tournaments of starting with a Jaguars wide receiver, stacking him with Lawrence, and seeing where else you can go with your lineup. I'm
cool with that too. And Marvin Jones and Shark have a combined 10 deep balls this year, 20+ yard targets downfield, 5 each. Like the air yards are there, Ben. The opportunity's there. It's just Lawrence hasn't been any good, but they are airing it out for sure.
No, and when you're in these type of game scripts, you have really no choice. You messaged. You mentioned Chenault, extremely low ADOT. He had negative yards in a game with 2 catches. That's really, really hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
I think for me, I mean, I have no problems with these Jags receivers. You certainly compare them up with Lawrence. The wild card for me tonight is, what does Urban Meyer do with the running backs? He finally got them involved with Arizona. They were able to hang in the game longer. You had James Robinson with 15 carries and Hyde had another 8. I think that comes at the direct leverage of some of these guys, because you mentioned they're going to be inefficient targets. So for them to get there, you really want them to fall behind, because you need Lawrence to give them as many chances as possible.
Yeah, I was wondering too, Ben, if let's just say you were running Lawrence and maybe you wanted him in a flex, or you wanted him at captain. How comfortable are you having Robinson in those lineups if, say, Lawrence was captain? Because for me, the problem is always, yeah, Robinson catches passes, but are they really highly correlated when a lot of times it's going to be like 5 for 38 or 6 for 50? Really benefits James Robinson from a PPR standpoint, but what does it do for Lawrence if he doesn't score?
Yeah, very good point. Full point PPR, it boosts the floor of Robinson. But for Trevor Lawrence, you're going to get like 1 aggregate point from that probably, right, unless he falls in the end zone. I get that. Honestly, even though it sounds ridiculous, and we'll get into deep end strategies at the end here, but the thing I think is boosted the most if you go Lawrence at captain would be Cincinnati's defense, because I think you want the game script that the Eagles had, where Lawrence is a mess and he has to throw the ball 50 times. He's running for his life. You don't want an efficient, clean game if you put him at captain.
No, and that's what I was saying. Like, interceptions for Lawrence might not be a bad thing in a game like this.
If he's your captain, I think it's actively good.
Yeah, you only lose 1 point, and then you're just going to get the ball back and have to throw.
Exactly.
So it's cool with me. Matt, how do you feel about this backfield with James Robinson and Carlos Hyde, who I know Robinson had a higher workload last week, but I don't think we can ignore the fact that Hyde still saw 8 carries in the game.
Yeah, I guess we can't, but I'm much more I've improved a lot on James Robinson's outlook after seeing him get 21 opportunities last week, and he totaled 134 yards, 25.4 points. So I do see a possibility of production here. I will say that, you know, in this game script, in this game environment where Cincinnati has been very strong against the run, I don't need to go there, but we'll say this. It sounds like you're a little more higher on Hyde than I am, because I don't think Hyde is anything more. Okay. Because I don't think he's anything more than a spell back, and that's where he should be used.
I'm not high on Hyde at all, as a matter of fact. I like James Robinson. I was just saying that overall rushing volume was higher last week than it's been in the past. And you saw that not just with James Robinson, but also with Carlos Hyde. That's all I'm at.
Yeah, big trend upward, though. You know, after just 11 opportunities, the full panic button in week 1, 14 opportunities in week 2, 21 in week 3. I think probably what's happening is the coaching staff is realizing James Robinson is their best running back.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think James Robinson can have a very solid game. Again, those PPR points in the receiving game are so valuable, and very good, a very good high likelihood that he's going to have to throw, and you'll see a lot of checkdowns to Robinson. Ben, are there any other options here in Jacksonville? I know you're a Laviska Shenault guy. They just brought on Dan Arnold in that trade for CJ Henderson, and they lost O'Shaughnessy for the year, or he's on the IR at least. I don't know if he's gone for the year, but he's on the IR. First of all, do we have is Arnold in or out? Do we have an inactives report yet?
Hyde's inactive, apparently.
Wait, really?
That's what Chad is saying, which is very surprising.
Oh, well, if that's the case, is that confirmed?
I don't have Twitter on me, but News God put it in chat, so I believe it's probably pretty damn accurate.
Well, if News God put it in chat, then I'm prone to believe it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, Matt, there you go, dude. I mean, that just speaks to what you were saying about the coaching staff, right? If Carlos Hyde is actually inactive.
Carlos Hyde is inactive. Yeah, there you go. Then they're just basically holding him back. If James Robinson were to get injured in the future, they would probably put him 1-for-1 in that role. But there you go.
I don't see anything on Arnold yet, so we'll pay attention. But Ben, back to you. Anybody else you want to hit on, and any interest in Shenault?
Wow, I'm just really surprised by that. if he's confirmed out. That is not shocking, but definitely a surprise. I think you go to Chenault. I mean, anytime you're getting volume, you can rack up some catches, you can get lucky and fall in the end zone. I know he's not the deep threat. He's had, again, this is negligible, but it's not nothing. He's had 2 carries on the year. Maybe they give him some work behind Robinson. Who knows what Urban's going to do at this point? So not my favorite target by any stretch, but when you look at this Jacksonville team, there's just not that many guys that are even relevant at this point.
We don't have any Lambo either. So
yeah, there's no kicker eligible on DraftKings for them.
Yeah, I know. I think his name is like Matthew White or something. I don't even know. It's Matthew W something. Matthew Whistler. I don't know. Doesn't matter. He's not there.
Yeah.
And they didn't update the player pool. So you ain't playing a kicker from Jacksonville, Matt, and you're probably not playing their defense either.
Yes. And I've just confirmed that, Carlos Hyde is an inactive player.
Yeah, and Dan Arnold's not on the inactive list, so I guess he's playing. But so I have a tough time believing he's just going to be out there for like 80% of snaps today either.
So who do you think spells? We just had the question from chat, and it's certainly a question we should talk about before we move on. Who do you think spells Robinson now?
I guess it's Dare Ogunbowale.
Yeah, him or yeah. I mean, that's surprising because he's another pass catcher type back. I don't know who they would use on the goal line at this point. Maybe it's Robinson.
So if you look at snap counts, Ogunbowale has played 5 snaps all season. James Robinson and Carlos Hyde have essentially eaten up all of the snaps collectively. Zigbe hasn't played at all. I honestly wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if Robinson plays like 90% of snaps tonight and they go back to what they were doing last year with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, these guys didn't get spelled at all, even in blowouts. So what are we supposed to assume? Like, would you be shocked if he played 80% of snaps, 85% of snaps? I wouldn't at all, honestly. I really wouldn't.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
That's what I mean.
No, he's kind of moved. I guess he, just from a volume standpoint, he kind of is a cash game lock. Not that you were actively avoiding him before, but now it's just a lot easier.
His props, as Chad is pointing out, if you like that receptions prop or really any of his props, now is probably the time to hit them just because of usage. Yeah,
for sure. All right. So we got this giveaway. I told you we're philanthropists here. We're philanthropists here. Philanthropist. You know you're a philanthropist when you can't say the word. And we're giving away 6 Awesemo Plus Platinum monthly subs. Jordan, you jumped the gun on this, but that's okay. All you have to do is type and send Awesemo in the chat. AWESEMO. That's it. Okay. AWESEMO. Now, are you gonna select this now, or should we select in a little bit? Why don't we let this? All right, perfect. So again, you guys have to spell it correctly. It's not Awesemo from South Park either. AWESEMO. Last time. All right. What? Not case sensitive. All right.
God, the chat is. I got to look away. It's getting.
Yeah, I know. It's going to give you an epileptic.
I'm trying to find some accidental misspellings here. I'm trying to say that.
Holy.
Yeah, I mean,
look at this.
If after everything I've just said, you spelled it wrong, your success in the daily fantasy sports field is probably short-lived anyway. So
yeah,
I wouldn't.
But hit your like button on the way out before you realize this is not for you.
Yeah. we're gonna crush 500 subs today. I think though we're at 221 already. Only asked once. I think we're okay. But all right, we hit on Jacksonville. Then I guess at this point, there's not really much else to get to with this team, Matt or Ben. I mean, we know what we're working with. We know they have some actually talented players. They're just not very good, which to me is just kind of intriguing because what if Lawrence plays well enough for these guys to actually be able to, what if he can elevate these guys for one game because they're already decent, like you said, probably slightly above average players.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely could happen here. And, in terms of just raw talent, upside, ceiling. There's a reason why Trevor Lawrence was the presumed number one pick for almost 3 years. All of that skill at the college level didn't just evaporate overnight. And, say what you want about how this team has been going over. We joke at the beginning about 20 straight losses, but he wasn't around for that. So from a functionality standpoint, do I know how good this Urban Meyer coaching scheme is? No, but Trevor Lawrence is good enough to outplay his situation eventually in a one-game sample size. I don't think he's going to be lost forever. So in terms of playing that narrative, I don't think it's a bad idea here before it's happened.
For sure. I guarantee it's going to be like Jacob Hollister, who has the 2 touchdown game, and we're just going to go to bed miserable. But we got to talk about.
Well, you know what? You mentioned that name. I'm just looking at some lineups that I just threw into Fantasy Cruncher, and you can get Trevor Lawrence in captain, and then a whole bunch of Bengals that feel much safer, like Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, and Hollister is basically your punt play there. If Dan Arnold's not going to play and O'Shaughnessy's on IR, maybe some fourth option does emerge here.
Yeah. Arnold is active. I just don't know if he's going to play. There's a big difference, right? So we'll see. I have a nice punt from Cincinnati too. And I have a stat that I referenced on the strategy show. I promise you guys, it'll blow your minds. We'll get there in a second though. No House Advantage. If you haven't checked them out, player props, peer-to-peer, you will love it. And all of the tools for No House Advantage are entirely free over at awesemo.com. All of the props there are static. They do not change throughout the day like many of these other places, giving you a big advantage. It's not a read. I'm just telling you straight up like why you should actually play there. Great place to build your bankroll. Use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, get $25 when you sign up and deposit. All you're doing is building a lineup with player props, right? So the ones at the top are the ones you're most confident in. They get the most points. The ones at the bottom you're least confident in, they get the fewest points, whether you win or lose. It's a cool format. Great place to win. I think there's still a competitive edge to be had there. And we have the player prop tool and the No House Advantage optimal lineups tool free at awesemo.com. Everything is free. All of the No House Advantage specific tools are totally free there. So check it out. Download the app in the Google Play Store or the apps or the App Store. Go to nohouseadvantage.com and use that promo code AWESEMO. That spells Awesemo. Get $25 when you sign up and deposit. All right, Ben. Talking about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, we'll start with him. Where do we go with Burrow? Captain spot, you like him more in the flex. What about the MVP on FanDuel? How are we handling the Cincy team as 7-point favorites?
So certainly he's in a really good spot, going to be amongst the most popular captain MVP choices. I have no problem with that. I think he's probably on the safer side. I would tend to mix it up and maybe take a skill position player, but there's no doubt that he's going to have ample opportunities against this team, particularly if they're pushed any sort of way. He has no problem. He's got really good options on the outside. And then let's look at this secondary for Jacksonville. They're allowing 9 yards per pass attempt. That's 30th in the league. That's horrendous. They just sent a corner to Carolina. I can't imagine it's getting much better. Burrow should have his way tonight. It's just, you're going to need him to get there with volume passing. He's a virtual zero in the running game. That's my one concern, is that maybe it's Mixon, or maybe even if he does throw 3 touchdowns, you probably need it 1-1-1, because if it's 2-to-1 guy, that wide receiver may be the captain that you wanted.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, it's the same exact way. I'm mostly looking if I'm playing a tournament where I'm going to get a skill position player, and if it is a wide receiver or a tight end, and then I'm almost definitely pairing them with their quarterback and then going from there. But yeah, Joe Burrow stands out, especially because of what I mentioned, where his comparative projection to the other quarterback on the slate is so high. So he's definitely the safest play. If you assume the game goes the way that the Vegas total implies that it will, then even if they end up closing out the game with Joe Mixon, it probably means that Joe Burrow got there with a couple of scores.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this game, Matt, and I see Joe Burrow, who oddly enough, well, it's really not odd because last week the game was not really competitive. He attempted 18 passes, was 14 for 18. He was efficient, 3 touchdowns. We can talk about some of that touchdown regression potentially coming for Jamar Chase in a second. But, 9.6 yards per attempt. Like, these are some decent numbers here. And then you've got 30 attempts in week 2's loss. 3 interceptions didn't help. And then 27 against Minnesota in a game that saw 51 total points and went to overtime. So I know that Zach Taylor last year had him throwing a lot, but that was also just kind of a product of their situation. And the offensive line this year has actually been a little bit better than it was last year. So all I'm saying is that passing volume is really low. And if this is a game where they're 7-point favorites, do you think we could see another Joe Burrow like 25 attempt game tonight?
I think they would like that.
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
They just want to protect Burrow at this point. And yeah, if you look at the NFL Advanced Stats tool as well, they used to be one of the highest pass rate teams in the league last year when Burrow debuted, but it's not been like that so far. They absolutely are playing a much more conservative style of offense. Doesn't mean he can't open it up tonight, but I just don't think he'll have to.
So I know that Brian Train must have watched the odds show today because he said Ben Rasa is not convinced it will regress. Talk to me about Jamar Chase.
Yeah, this is a really good spot for him. He's been fantastic. We all know that, but I just look at exactly what they want to do with him. And obviously he's a deep threat, and I'll get into some props later in the show that I really like. But the thing for me, sacks per game, Jacksonville 1.3, 31st in the league. They're not going to pressure Burrow. They're not going to put tremendous heat. So if he wants to take the shots to Jamar Chase, he will have the opportunities. And this guy obviously has shown everything in preseason was overblown. He's making the most. He only has 16 targets on the year. Now, clearly you're not going to catch a touchdown on 25% of your targets. We all know that, but he makes the most of his targets. He is a deep threat kind of guy. He's not going to be in the Waddle, Shenault bucket too often. So I think that this defense is specifically set up to not be able to stop Jamar Chase tonight. I like him a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Jaguars second fewest sacks of any team on the season with 4. Not great pressure that they're putting on opposing quarterbacks, Matt. Where do you stand on a guy like Jamar Chase?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for watching these players, but then seeing the numbers and just saying, obvious regression candidate, no way. So Ben's point is completely valid, but I just see that 25% touchdown rate and I say it has to come down. I don't want to be caught on the wrong side of it, and I end up not playing it. But Ben, you're absolutely right here. The Jaguars defense is abysmal. Burrow's going to have time. And, you know, I was listening to another breakdown of Chase's play, which has been nothing short of spectacular start of his career. He is roasting one-on-one man coverage, which is a really good sign for his future production and his ability. So maybe it just ends up with him getting more opportunities, and that's the reason his touchdown rate comes down, not simply because it's unsustainable.
Anime Heaven says, you guys don't have the countdown timer anymore? Did we have it for the Thursday night football? For the Gotcha. Yeah, no big deal. Just curious because it is a nice little feature there. All right, Jordan, let's do the giveaway. Fix your eyes on the screen, my friends. We've got, told you I'd do it, Ben. We've got a giveaway here. We had a ton of submissions. So I mean, just straight 5 minutes of spamming with Awesemo, which is great. I mean, that's what we want. We got 6. How does this work, Jordan?
It's going to be Eric's going to win. Watch.
So you'll see that we have 190 eligible users right here. And then we're just going to roll it and see. We're going to do it 6 times to get the people. Or to get the winner.
You have to be a subscriber to win?
No. Well, this is no. You just have to be. You just have to comment Awesemo in chat. But this is a subscriber.
That looked like a lot more than 190.
Yeah, it's 202 now. Well, you don't get entered twice. You just the first time you do.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Eric Lindquist with the late submission. Watch. Here it comes.
Tiru Hinu with 1.
Okay. I'm gonna let you do this while we talk. All right, and then just pay attention to the screen if you're in this. So I don't want to sit here and watch us do 6 of these. There's also a giveaway over on our Twitter at Awesemo_com. We're giving away 6 more Awesemo Plus Platinum subscriptions for the month. So if you don't win here, throw your hat in the ring over at Awesemo_com. While you're there, follow Ben and Matt and myself. All right. So here's something crazy. Well, actually, let's hit on Tyler Boyd first, Ben, because no T. Higgins today, which is pretty significant. Tyler Boyd has seen a lot of targets. Matter of fact, he leads the team in targets with 19. Not a huge passing volume offense, But Boyd gets kind of a bad rap sometimes. And I know he runs most of his routes out of the slot, but the guy's pretty decent.
Oh, really? I think he's a wildly underrated player.
Okay.
I think their most reliable option. Chase is more the home run threat. I have no problem with Tyler Boyd. I think that he's an interesting pairing with Burrow if you leave Chase out tonight. I think most people naturally, as I already just advocated, for Jamar Chase, the home run ability, he's catching crazy touchdowns, he's explosive. Tyler Boyd is more like workman, like he's just going to get his targets, he's going to convert underneath. It doesn't mean that he can't score. I think his TD equity is probably a little lower. But, you know, when you look at him, he is an interesting Bengal. He's obviously, with T. Higgins out, going to be amongst, if not the leader for targets in this offense. So I get him. I think he's probably more of a flex play than a captain. I think most people would agree with that, though. So you're not really doing anything there, but he's one of the safest options on the board.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Matt?
I mean, the thing I don't like about Boyd, and you know, we say he's a short area slot target, but some short area slot targets get enough volume in a high powered offense so that they can sort of overcome that, and they don't need multiple touchdowns here. But the thing that's really alarming for Boyd, 24 air yards in week 1, 40 air yards in week 2, 36 air yards in week 3. Now, you don't need air yards if you're getting peppered with low with short area targets, but as we already mentioned, this Cincinnati offense would prefer to be low volume. So, you know, now we're talking low volume, low ADOT, and yes, the projection looks pretty good, but I don't think the ceiling is there.
Matt, in 2019, who led the Bengals in red zone targets?
In 2019?
Yeah.
So without T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, without that serious influx of talent,
yeah, well, I mean,
Tyler Boyd.
You would think so. Matter of fact, I was setting you up for failure there intentionally.
Oh, good.
Right? Matter of fact, Audin Tate had 14 red zone targets in 2019, 3 more than anyone else on the team. Now, Boyd played 16 games. Awesemo played 16 games. They had 11 red zone targets. Audin Tate had 14. And he only played 12 games. Now, granted, 2019 is not 2021, and Joe Burrow is not Andy Dalton. But I only say that to point out that given that T. Higgins is out, and last week Audin Tate played 57% of snaps, he's almost the minimum on DraftKings. Is it crazy to think this guy might find the end zone tonight?
Audin Tate? No, not at all. I think Audin Tate is that.
Oh, great call on Greg Ward last week. I forgot to mention that.
And we got Zach Ertz. Yeah, I know, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
so
not
I
always
didn't mean
going
to
to be
catch
that
up,
lucky.
but I would have forgot about that. When I saw that, I was like, fucking Matt. He got Greg Ward. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Audin Tate is one of the best pieces that helps you get to a lot of safe options around him. So I'm fine with him as an auxiliary piece. Probably not a captain unless you're talking large field tournaments, but no, I'm fine playing him here. I expect it to be pretty concentrated to the big 3 without Higgins out, but Audin Tate is right there with them after that.
Crazy, Ben. Last week, Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd led the team with 19 routes run. 19 is, and then Tate had 10 and Mike Thomas had 5. So they basically just ran the whole game. But what do you make of these auxiliary guys, Audin Tate and Mike Thomas and those types?
So, yeah, I mean, 2 things there. One, I think that the problem is Cincinnati being okay or to possibly good really hurts all these guys because their identity is not what we wanted as fantasy players, which was wildly explosive. But having said that, in one game, Audin Tate is the obvious pay down option. He's extreme salary relief. I get it. He makes the most sense. He's probably going to be potentially cash viable if you're doing something where you're really paying up for the quarterbacks. I do think in tournaments, though, you can take an ownership discount to Mike Thomas, who, again, is a pure punt as well. And he's going to be at least, half to a third of the ownership of Audin Tate. And I certainly don't think that Audin Tate is 2 to 3 times as likely to catch the one random lucky target that they may receive.
So you have like the same 2 people just spamming Awesemo in chat.
Shout out. I'm happy for all the winners, but I do want to give a special one to Tokyo Swan, who is a loyal Awesemo golf listener. Great guy, super sharp guy in our chat every Wednesday night for Live Before Lock. So happy to see him grab one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
happy
Luffy.
to see it.
Can you tell them when I roll it and they see when they see their name on the screen, they need a comment in order to claim it. So
you got to comment if you see your name on the screen in
that way
order
we
to
know
claim it.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. You can tell we planned this really well.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, it's half my fault, to be honest with you. Sometimes you get complacent.
Who's the other fault? Who's the other 50% fault?
Yours,
Me
of course.
and Matt are absolved. So.
All right. Now, we haven't really spoken much on Mixon, but Matt, I do want to ask you again, just these kind of tertiary wide receivers. I know it's ugly, but we have to pretty much talk about anyone that runs a damn route in these games when it comes to showdown. So what are your thoughts on Mike Thomas?
If he is running around the same amount of routes as a player who has much higher ownership than him, I think Ben perfectly outlined why in tournaments it makes more sense to just simply go with that lower owned player. You know, anyone could catch a touchdown pass against the 27th ranked defense by Football Outsiders DVOA here. So, you know, we're talking about extremely low probability plays, but, you know, if there's an ownership difference, then that makes our answer very easy.
Shall we talk about Joe Mixon?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been waiting the whole show.
Yeah, I know you have. All right, I got to start with Ben then. I was going to start with Matt. Let me start with Ben. Ben, he's second in carries behind only Derrick Henry. Granted, he's miles behind him because it's Henry, but Joe Mixon is getting the true workhorse role. Did you see his rushing attempt prop for today?
I did before. It's pretty lofty.
20 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, that's their identity.
Yeah.
Again,
I would hit the under on that, by the way, but
I certainly am not going to bet that. If I did bet it, I would also hit the under. But it's interesting though, because you think you hit the under, but who else is? Chris Evans and P. Ryan are doing absolutely nothing in this backfield. Joe Mixon has the backfield completely to himself, so it's more a situation of tempo than anything else. He's not getting as much work in the passing game as I wanted to. Now, there's a factor that there's so much carries, you have volume, but he did have just one target against Pittsburgh, only 2 against Chicago, 4 in the overtime game against Minnesota. I would love to see him just get a couple each, 3-4 targets each week would really bolster the floor. But there's no doubt that Mixon's the most likely person to fall in the end zone tonight. And if Cincinnati wins this game, and they should, Mixon's probably the focal point of the offense.
yeah, and even if they're not winning this game, just, some stroke of luck for Jacksonville, Mixon's still going to be involved. I know he hasn't been targeted a lot, Matt, but they haven't needed to use him in the passing game.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. And you know what, guys, I might be taking the other side on that rushing prop. Just going back to the 2020 season, I'm seeing a player who had 25 carries, 24 carries, then he got hurt in week 6 of last year, didn't play again. But then week 1, 29 carries, 20 carries. And then as we said, last week was an extremely low volume, high efficiency day for this offense. He still got 18 carries. So yeah, it's really lofty, but I think the game script really sets up for him being the best and safest player on the slate. Now, if you're talking tournaments, it's a different story because this is the most likely outcome, but there's a reason this is the most likely outcome. They're going to feed Joe Mixon, and the Jacksonville rush defense isn't any better than that pass defense.
No, they're not. And there's a bunch of different ways this can go, but the most realistic, the most likely way is that Joe Mixon gets a lot of opportunities. I thought the same thing about Antonio Gibson the other week too, but this is definitely a great spot for him. I don't really have any interest in any of the backups. As Ben mentioned, Matt, sometimes we talk about backups because once in a while you'll get that game, like you will. But in this case, Joe Mixon is just getting all of the running back carries. And that's the exact type of bell cow that you feel really good about plugging into the captain spot or pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. And the usage has been really, really strong, and the underlying production has not been. So we usually just chase volume and hope that he regresses, because we know he's capable of being very efficient on his touches.
Almost 400 likes here. Yeah, we're hitting it. We got 13 minutes to go at 105 likes to go. I think we can make that happen. And once again, guys, the giveaway is legitimately to thank you for getting us to 60,000 subs, because without you watching, we are not going to, we're not going to get there. Oh wait, Jordan, they're spamming because we still haven't picked all 6.
No, I've only gotten 4 because they need to respond because some people are inactive in chat, so they need. I have 2 more to give away.
Oh, okay. I thought this was just a massive spam session. Can you
No.
please get these people out of here? Really, they're just doing what you've asked them. All right. Matt, Ben, one question I always have, because I think people run into some trouble here, is if you are captaining Robinson, or more specifically Mixon, because we anticipate most of his work is going to come on the ground. What's a good tournament build around that? Because there's not a lot of correlation there, and it gets a little weird.
I think that's probably the most generic story that you're telling is Cincinnati's better than Jacksonville. They're scoring. They're riding Mixon. Burrow, I think, is severely impacted because of volume. And then you're going to probably have Jacksonville guys playing a little catch up. The problem is everyone's going to tell that story. So I would do something probably pretty weird. Maybe throw in like an odd, like, I don't want to recommend like Uzoma, who's getting no volume, but just somebody on the Bengals that's a little off to do that. Because I think if you just go Mixon and then generic Jacksonville run backs and kind of just have a very standard team, that's the most common outcome tonight. And in large field tournaments, there's simply no room for that.
So at that rate, could Mike Thomas be the guy then?
Yeah, someone like that, where at least, the way you got to think about it is Mixon is going to be, very, very popular, say upwards of 20% in the captain spot. But what percent of those teams have a sub $1,000 Cincinnati receiver? Now you're reducing his captain ownership to say sub 5%. Then you can further reduce by doing some other things within the lineup. So it's not about the ownership of one guy. It's your cumulative ownership, of course. And that, I think, you really have to be cognizant if you're going with the most popular player at captain.
All right, Matt. What do you say we build a lineup here?
Let's do it.
Let's make it happen. Let's go. I'm seeing what we got in the lobby. See it. Okay. How about this? Here's a good one that I'm sure a bunch of people are in. The $5 huddle, $100,000 prize pool, and it is 23,700, 15K up top. So it's not the milli. It's not an insane, 190,000, but it's a pretty decent size field. So let's do that. You kick it off as our guest on tonight's show. What do you got at the captain spot?
Okay, at the captain spot, pretty big tournament here, so I'm sensing a wide receiver here. I think we'll go with DJ Chark, a regression candidate in terms of his expected value, or not living up to expected value. You're not going to be alone, but I think there's a solid bet for him, especially with Marvin Jones probably getting that number 1 wide receiver treatment.
Okay. I'm all about it. I think, you know where I'm at on that today. So let's load him up. What do we have outside of that, Ben? First flex player in here.
I'm actually going to stick with Jacksonville. I'm going to put in James Robinson. We're going to consolidate a ton of production from them. You've got Chark over the top. I think you still can get Robinson just because of this Hyde news. It's not to say that, Chark couldn't have some volume if they fall behind, but Robinson has to be busy now. They're not just going to abandon the run completely. So let's just consolidate all the Jacksonville usage that we need, and then we can work on the last 4.
So are you cool? You guys cool having Chark at captain and Robinson without Trevor Lawrence in the lineup?
I probably would lean towards having Lawrence in the lineup.
So would I,
to be honest.
So would I. So all right, let's do that. I'm going to go here since we all kind of agreed on that, and then we'll close it out with you, Matt, and then Ben, you'll have the final pick, which I'm sure will be fun because we'll be in the no man's land where it's all 6K backup quarterbacks. I'm going Mixon here. It's just too good of a spot. So we want to punt probably with something, Matt.
All right. Well, there's not many options. I think we've talked about most of them. Why don't we throw in Mike Thomas?
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm cool with that. You got Mike Thomas, Ben. All right, you got 7,400 remaining. So you have Boyd if you wanted to go with a second pass catcher, but you wouldn't be able to get Joe Burrow. And then you have Chenault in there, which would make it like a Jacksonville stack. There are some things that could happen. Bengals defense is another one. What do you like?
Yeah, so I think you just highlighted it's kind of just risk tolerance slash, you're sacrificing. You'll have less dupes if you go Bengals defense. You'll have a higher probability of a higher score if you go with Tyler Boyd. So I don't mind any of those. I think the build that we looked, with Mixon in there, you mentioned Lawrence, and then you've got either an extra Jacksonville player, and that's fine, or you go with the guy with the highest floor, which would be Tyler Boyd.
All right. So which one do you want? Boyd?
No. Let's go for it.
Oh, okay. So Bengals D?
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't sure.
I like
it didn't
it.
sound like you came to a conclusion there.
Well, I was trying to cover all the bases, so one of these things you gotta get there. It's a lot easier that way. But no, I seriously think when you're talking about lineups like this, I know it's counterintuitive, but I'm a strong advocate. If you really want Trevor Lawrence and DJ Shark to be busy, have Cincinnati have a strip sack, have a pick six early,
You're
really
right.
force Lawrence to drop back 35, 40, 50 times. Boyd is great, and he obviously has a higher floor, but the Bengals defense has the higher variance.
And it leaves some money on the table, which also could be pretty beneficial in really any tournament. We got 6 minutes. Let's do a FanDuel lineup and then our top props to close out this show and turn it on over to the live before lock crew coming up immediately after us taking you all the way to lock. It's Eric Lindquist. Oh, and Neil Orfield joining him. Neil Orfield's won a lot of money. Won a milli last year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. He's won a lot. He's always up top. So stick around for that, no doubt. All right, Ben, you kick it off here with your MVP on FanDuel. And remember, 1.5 times salary or points, but you don't have to pay 1.5 times the salary.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder to punt over there. I think the quarterbacks can and will be very, very popular, but I'm going to go with my guy. I know he's going to regress. Jamar Chase can blow up any lineup. He's so explosive. I think over the top tonight, let's go Jamar Chase and try to get away from what is going to be very, very hard to be unique.
Jamar Chase it is. What do you got, Matt?
All right, I got the easy layup option, pairing him with Burrow right here.
Yeah, I like it.
Lock it in.
I like it. All right. I'm seeing if we go Mixon, we could still go Mixon and make a decent lineup here, as a matter of fact. But here's what I'll do. I'll go with a run back, and then you guys can figure the rest out. Give me DJ Shark. I just like the ceiling. If we're playing a large field tournament, he's going to get targeted deep. He might have 4 points, but he might have 25. And I'm willing to risk that on a slate like this, especially with Cincinnati's defense looking good, but still, in my opinion, unproven. Ben, who do you have? We have 2 flexes left. We have 11,000 per player remaining.
11,000 per player. So you could go. I think James Robinson's probably, again, one of the safer options. It's going to be tough to go with Lawrence. I think that would leave you 75.
Yeah. And Mixon wouldn't leave you a ton. If
you could play the Jacksonville kicker because he's not eligible on DraftKings. And I think a lot of people are just going to not even bother with that. I wonder how many people over on FanDuel will play Matthew Wright, who's, again, not even in the pool on the other side.
Oh, I said Matthew White. I was close. And it's pretty impressive for a guy I didn't heard of until this morning. Yeah, you could do that. Or does it make sense? Audin Tate is super cheap. Mike Thomas is dirt cheap. You will have some cheap options. And I don't know how many people are going to be punting on FanDuel either, Matt. So there's actually a few options you could go with here.
Yeah, so if we lock in right here, then we got a lot of space there. We could get all the way to Robinson if that's the case. If we went right Robinson, that makes it easy. But I think we outline, I think if we're trying to be unique, you might do something like Marvin Jones here. Just saying that there's more production from the receivers, but Trevor Lawrence has a turnover-prone game that doesn't produce a score that you need in tournaments. So just to be unique, I'll say Marvin Jones.
Okay. Wait, he doesn't fit.
Wait, I thought you had Matthew Wright.
Yeah, he fits.
I have Jamar Chase.
Wait, we're not playing Robinson then. Is that what you're saying? No Robinson? Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
sorry. I'm building along. I can't see.
We're good.
Jordan's
I had plugged Robinson in there. That's my fault. All right. But not Wait, is right in there? I don't know. Now the screen's
I
all
messed it all up. I'm sorry
cool.
when I was building them
Chase,
wrong.
Burrow, Shark, the kicker,
and Jones. Right.
and Jones.
And who and Jones?
I said the kicker. Matthew
Okay.
Wright,
Okay.
yeah.
Matthew Wright. There's a lot you can do on FanDuel. I'll be playing mostly on DraftKings anyway, though. So there's that. But yeah, we're at $4.99. We nailed it. Thank you guys for the 500 likes. I'm just counting my eggs before they hatch, chickens before they hatch. Cause yeah, yeah, right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. What?
Yeah, I said you don't need to count the eggs.
Right. Exactly.
Don't
Yes,
put them in the
exactly.
basket. Yeah, you're good.
Hey, and if you guys did want to check out the tools we referenced, the Awesemo single game showdown top stack tool, the top plays tool, we love that tool. It just gives you all the probabilities, whether, like through across, whether what's the probability they're going to be the top overall scorer, the optimal captain, whether they're going to finish 2 through 6 or 2 through 5 on FanDuel. All of this stuff is super helpful and help you building lineups, especially for tournaments and for cash too. But you have ownership, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, the lineup builder that you just saw Jordan using on the screen. It looks so nice and purty, all that stuff. If you use the promo code, what are we at? And it's NFL Showdown DD. Yeah. All one word, all caps. NFL Showdown DD, like deeper dive. Get 50% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's every single thing on the site. And you can add on the Fantasy Cruncher for the week, the add-on for that if you'd like. But check it out. All these tools built and used by the #1 ranked DFS player out there. Awesemo himself won a lot of money using these as well. So check them out. Let me know what you think. And if you have questions, maybe you want to do a year, a month, you want to do one sport, you want to do all sport, whatever it is, hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are open. If you're having trouble deciding or wondering what's in all of them, whether you're a novice, a casual, whether you're serious, it doesn't matter. We got something for everyone. So awesemo.com/join. And of course, join the premium Slack chat office hours where you got the pros answering your questions every day and helping you better your game. All right, let's do it. We're right up against it. Top props, boys. Ben, top props for the game tonight, Thursday Night Football.
So I'm going to just say this real quick. I gave this out on the betting show on Awesemo Odds. Jamar Chase, longest reception over 23.5. It is now up to 26.5. This is why you want to go to the Awesemo Odds channel. I still like it, but obviously I would reduce units. I do think Chase will hit a big one tonight over the top.
All right. I like it. What are you doing, Matt?
Staying with the Cincinnati passing game, I like Tyler Boyd over 5.0 receptions. The Awesemo props tool actually has it as positive ROI on 5.5 receptions, currently lower on Prize Picks. I really like that tonight.
All right. By the way, James Robinson's rush plus receiving yards prop is updated to 90.5. So
that's why No House Advantage is fantastic, because his prop is stuck at the old line. So
exactly. And it always will be. No matter what happens, it will be. I'll stick with Shark today. I was on Miles Sanders on Monday, and it's so frustrating because the efficiency was there. He averaged like 13 yards a touch, and just Nick Sirianni didn't use him. I will take the L, but I won't. Okay, give me DJ Shark over. Oh, it came up. It was at 48.5 earlier. Woo! 52.5 receiving yards for Shark. That's got, damn, okay. It's up 4 yards. I think this is a spot. I mean, he's just getting so many opportunities. Eventually, you need to connect. Final score prediction before we go, Ben.
23-20 Bengals.
Okay, you got a close game.
Yeah, close game.
All right, what about you, Matt?
24-17 Bengals. Woo, Jaguars do not make it to 20 points.
All right, I'm going 42-14 Jaguars. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Give me 27-20 Bengals. We get a push, but you get some production out of both sides. Thanks for hanging as always, guys. Thanks for getting us to 60K subs. Follow Ben at JazzRaz DFS, Matt at Draftaholic, myself at Lavi_D. And as always, while you're hanging around waiting for the Live Before Lock crew coming up right now, say thanks to your boy Jordan putting in the work. Why do you shake your head when I do that? Forget it. Just chastise him. I don't care. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace.
The engagement on the show. The engagement's gonna be crazy on the show. Like the engagement rates on the show, like comments and shit. Yeah. So funny. Yep. Peace, guys. Yo. What's good? Oh my goodness.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Thursday Night Live Before Lock show, presented by No House Advantage. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm excited. This is my first show. I'm always excited about first shows with people, but not very often I get to go chat it up with a Millie Maker winner right off the bat, leading up to lock. I mean, first of all, props on you for having a Live Before Lock show. I mean, I know it's a lot that you're handling over on your side, but again, there's nobody better to navigate these waters than you. It's Neil Orford. He's literally the man. How you doing, my guy?
How's it going, Eric? Fellow Midwestern boy, right? You're from South Dakota, is that right?
That is correct. Oh, man after my own heart. You got the right Dakota, which is a 50-50 shot.
We're fans of the same Minnesota sports team, so I know that you're from close by.
Yeah, so we both have a lot of sadness in our hearts.
That's very true.
Oh my God, just pure. All right, well, this show took a turn for everybody else involved because we're going to start crying about 5 seconds from now. But
talk Gary Anderson. No, just kidding.
God, Gary frickin' Anderson. So fun story about that. My mom, I think like hyperventilate, like screamed, ended up like crying, lost her mind. I was in bed for like 2 days. And I'm like, how, like, I don't know. It was I have the right mother, somebody who's just as obsessed with Minnesota sports as me. It was not a good time. That I can remember. That's one of like the most vivid memories of my childhood. It was like 11, 12 years old. I thought somebody in our family died, and no, it was just Gary Anderson.
It was very sad.
Yeah, those are bad times. Anyway, everybody hit that like button for our sadness. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. So you know when this and all the other content here at Awesemo is going live. We just hit 60,000 subs, Neil. That's pretty fantastic.
That's really great.
Yeah, it's awfully nice. And you know what's also nice is we're going to just start this thing up here. We're going to get to know House Advantage here in a little bit, but I'm just ready to get into this. Let's talk quarterbacks. We go position by position. We've got 50 minutes here, 43 minutes here until lock. So it should be pretty well established what we're doing here at this point. What are you doing at the quarterback position, considering most people are just looking at this narrative as Joe Burrow is going to smash and Trevor Lawrence is not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to play a lot of both of them. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a volume quarterback. He throws the ball a lot, and the Cincinnati defense has been good this year so far. Maybe it's legitimate. I don't really know, but volume is king. So I'm going to be playing a lot of Trevor Lawrence as well. I was telling Eric before the show that I'm playing a lot of lineups tonight on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I can tell you right now, I've got Trevor Lawrence in 48% of my DraftKings lineups in the flex, and then another 10% in captain spot. So I'll be playing a lot of Trevor Lawrence. And then obviously I'll be playing a lot a lot of Joe Burrow too against that Jacksonville defense.
Well, in my 20 lineups, no, I'm kidding. I didn't play as many lineups. I mean, it's not that I'm not intrigued to be able to watch this game. And, for me, it's just being able to multitask. You are the ultimate multitasker. Again, props on you for throwing this into the equation here. Thank you for the exact numbers too. Everybody just go ahead and click Cruncher, cap them at those numbers, and triple click the plus. But no, we don't want to get into that. That's not very nice. But what I think we want to do is also just kind of talk, if you had to make one lineup, because there are a lot of people out there making one lineup, a lot of people making 3 max stuff or like 20 max. I've got some 20 max stuff tonight just because I'm on a show and keeps it interesting for me. What would you be doing in one lineup with the quarterbacks? Would you be looking at captaining them on DraftKings tonight or no?
I don't think so. I think I'd be going Joe Mixon at captain with one lineup. Just the Awesemo tools really like Joe Mixon as being the top captain option and a little bit under-owned there. So I think I'd be going Joe Mixon instead of one of the quarterbacks.
And you're referring to the Awesemo tools, which is a beautiful thing to do. The top showdown tools and single game plays we have. The top percentage on Joe Mixon, we'll just lead it right into the running back position because, man, a lot of my lineups changed with the Carlos Hyde news. And we'll talk Joe Mixon first because I think, definitely somebody that you can get some positive leverage on. Top percentage, he's showing up in the top lineup 24% of the time, 2.7% of leverage here. Seems like the utility and the captain number is just a little bit lower than what we have him projected for. So I'm definitely over the field on Joe Mixon captain as well. On FanDuel, it's definitely a more interesting question. I mean, half point PPR, I'm not as concerned about him, but James Robinson makes an intriguing guy there in the MVP spot. Just in regards to, I don't think he's going to be that owned compared to what he should be, mainly with Carlos Hyde inactive. But talk to me about the running back position as a whole.
Well, I assume that in the show before this one, they figured out what to do with the backup running backs for the Jaguars. So I'm hoping they covered that because I have no idea what to do with the backup running backs for the Jaguars with Carlos Hyde ruled out. I'm going to be playing a ton of Joe Mixon. That goes, I think, without saying. I'm also going to be playing a lot of James Robinson. I'm a little bit nervous about it because if the Jags get down, who knows, if they're going to be running the ball all that much. But, he can catch passes too. As far as actual like players that you can play at running back, those are the two main ones. And then I also bumped up Dare
Ogunbowale. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
It's incredible that he plays in the NFL and he's the least recognizable of the two siblings. His sister, WNBA star.
That's right. That is right.
Absolute stud.
So I'm going to be playing those guys for sure. And then I'm also playing, and this sort of goes against the Awesemo tool, but I'm going to be playing a little bit over the field on both P. Ryan and Chris Evans, and just kind of hoping for the best. That's just because I'm playing tournaments. I don't know that I would do that in a small tournament, but in a large field tournament, I like to just hope that this is a game the coach decides, hey, we don't need to rush Joe Mixon 25 times. I take those chances in showdown in big tournaments just because, football is so random and you gotta have hope for a little bit of randomness on these showdown slates. So I'll be hoping that P. Ryan and Chris Evans, one or the other gets involved this week. I also, part of it for me is I think Cincinnati is favored in this game. If they get up by 20 points in the fourth quarter, maybe Cincinnati won't want to be running Joe Mixon and they'll let those guys, shine a little bit in the fourth quarter at least.
And there's 1,600 and 800. And I mean, it doesn't feel too bad to play them in the same lineup as Mixon. In that game script, you're looking at Mixon probably going off in the first 3 quarters and them cleaning up garbage time. And that's just building on a different narrative. You're probably going to be leaving some interesting salary on the table for sure, but it just always feels like some of these backup running backs. I mean, Joe Mixon, no question about it, has this backfield. Nobody's questioning that, but you just saw another showdown on, I don't even know if I can talk about it, but Christian McCaffrey lock button didn't go so well the other night. So there's always a small little bit of hope there for that as well. Have some lineups without Mixon. That would be the right question to ask. Do you have some Evans and P. Ryan lineups without Joe Mixon?
I doubt it that I have any of both of them without Joe Mixon. I definitely have some with one or the other without Joe Mixon.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I might because I have so many lineups, but it's not something that I would necessarily recommend. And I don't think that you need a Joe Mixon. I mean, Joe Mixon could get hurt, and that's something you always have to factor in with football. But I mean, J.D. McKissick 2 weeks ago, Thursday Night Football went off without an Antonio, and I think he actually outscored Antonio Gibson on that slate. So I feel like it, these guys can come into play even without a big injury, and of course the injury adds a little bit of likelihood that one of them is going to do really well. All right. Do you have any other Jacksonville running backs that you want to throw out there other than Dare Ogunbowale?
Yeah, so Dare, I mean, he used to play for Tampa Bay once upon a time. I know that about him. I know that he had some work towards like the back end of 2020, leading into that. What did he have? I can't remember. I think Ronald Jones was out or something happened. Like he was actually a conversation piece of week 16, week 17 in DFS last season. Yeah, so I'm looking at the numbers now, 10.8, 11.2. So, I mean, he didn't do anything exceptional, wasn't going to win anybody a tournament in that spot, but he's randomly, I mean, he's not necessarily a guy who's gotten major production. He did get 14 carries in both of those games. So he's somebody who can come in as a change of back, but I think he's most prominently known as a guy who shows up in the receiving game here and there. So on a PPR site, I think I'm more willing to take some shots. Let me take a look at FanDuel too, to see what his price is over there. I don't have nearly as much going on at the time here. Ogunbowale is 5K. So yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, I guess he's a conversation piece if you're just trying to team jam him in, going that direction. But otherwise on DK, PPR, sure, he can show up there quite a bit, but I got to be thinking this is just James Robinson or bust for me.
Okay.
I'm not playing enough lineups to have it probably be something where he would sneak in more than like one.
So are you factoring in at all that it was late news? Like, I feel like to some extent he might be underowned because of the late breaking news. And that's often something I want to take advantage of. So currently I have 13% to give you where I'm at with Ogunbowale. Currently I have 13%. And that's just because who knows what's going to happen. It's Showdown. I like to get wild with Showdown. So I'm going to hope for the best there.
This is the right guy to have on then. I'm excited about this. For NBA, that's something that I do a lot where I'll just overvalue somebody and the news breaks super late on something and you just jam immediately knowing that, hey, the number of times it works out, the field can't react. In NFL, you at least do have much more time. We'll see. But as you said, hand building, there were 165, 170K entries filled up in that DK Millie by 4 p.m. out here on the West Coast. That was 45 minutes ago. How many people are going to be resetting their lineups between now and then?
Exactly. Not that many.
So I love that point by you. That is lovely. That's why they pay you the semi big bucks, but you make all the big bucks. So it doesn't matter. Life is really good for you. Let's talk No House Advantage because they're the presenting sponsor. And there's a couple lines that we got to talk about just because of how this news with Carlos Hyde being inactive is kind of changing the slate. And if you haven't had a chance to play over there, use promo code Awesemo to get $25 deposit bonus when you use that promo code. It's such a great site, peer-to-peer, super easy to be playing. It's going to overlay today too. So if you go and play the $20, there's only 230 total entries that are in that. That's 70 left to the cap of that, 2K to first. So if you're looking to play one tournament that can increase your bankroll, that is the one that you kind of want to be targeting today for sure. I just want to bring up the prop because I'm looking at it now. 55.5 rushing yards for James Robinson. Our projected stats page that you have over at Awesemo has him for 73.76. That's got to be looking at one of the top confidence plays on the night. Is there another prop you might have targeted for NHA today?
I have not had a chance to look at.
Okay. So the James Robinson, 55.5 rushing yards.
I love that.
Both feel pretty great about that, right?
Yeah. Give me that all day.
Give me that all day. I wanted to ask one more player over here too. We have 0.5 interceptions on Trevor Lawrence. One of my favorite things to do over on NHA as you're building lineups is to look at around the books. We have other books that we can use that information to go towards Trevor Lawrence. There are a number of 1.5s. It was hard to find a 0.5 because it was juiced so heavily towards the over on 0.5 interceptions for Trevor Lawrence. How do you feel about a 0.5 interception line on NHA for him?
Yeah, I'll take the over on that. I mean, Cincinnati's defense, not always great, but they've been pretty good so far this year. And he's a rookie quarterback and he's going to be throwing a lot. So yeah, I'll take the over on half of an interception.
Nolan Kelly, our guy, he just said that Dare and 5-1 Bengals builds. Let's go. How do you feel about that?
Yes, do it. I'm all in.
Are you serious?
I probably have some.
Okay.
I can't say for sure.
Yeah, just the absolute blowout narrative. The guy ends up, I mean, God, I just need to bump this up. I mean, he is 200. He's just your direct Audin Tate pivot. Oh, let's talk wide receivers. How about that? See, this is why they pay me the semi-big bucks too. We just have these perfect segues. Let's talk wide receiver because there's a lot of them we want to be rostering, especially on DK, full point PPR. Coming in with pretty flat ownership up and down the board. Tyler Boyd, it's interesting. Earlier in the day, Jamar Chase was kind of to the top of it, but I thought cost prohibitiveness, both on FanDuel, on DraftKings, on Yahoo, on every site, would lean people towards Tyler Boyd, and that's kind of been what happened. How are you handling Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd specifically on this slate?
I'm going to have a ton of Tyler Boyd, and I had to cut him way down in my projection because I was getting so much, and the only way I could get less was to cut him back. But I've still got 40% Tyler Boyd. I've got 29% Jamar Chase. I think that if I were doing it now, I would probably try to get to a little bit more Jamar Chase. I guess I've got him in 14% of my captain lineups. So I kind of like that. I love the wide receiver at captain because, wide receivers can just get 100 yards and, 6 catches for a touchdown or 2 and be the optimal. I've definitely in my early builds, I was getting 70% Tyler Boyd and was just a little bit uncomfortable with that because I feel like there are a lot of good options out there. So I cut back a little bit, but I still want a lot of Tyler Boyd for sure.
Yeah, and Tyler Boyd, 79% of the offensive snaps last time out, like 4% less. It's so negligible. These are the two guys in that receiving core that you really want to be targeting the most. But we got to talk about Audin Tate because he's a big guy, and I feel like this is the right way to describe him. He's a guy that you just throw the ball at him and you say, hey, go get it. Like Audin Tate is like the jump ball king of things. 13 red zone targets, I believe, in 2019 was the number from the last show from Lofty. And watching Audin Tate in 2019, I can vividly remember just tilting my face off because I had all the Tyler Boyd pretty much every single week. But how are you handling him on this slate?
I'm going to have some Audin Tate for sure. I feel like he's one of those guys that I've seen so many people talking about him on Twitter that in my mind, I'm like, well, he's going to be 50% owned because everybody wants Audin Tate. But the ownership projections don't show that. And, they're usually a lot better than I am at predicting ownership. So yeah, I will have plenty of Audin Tate. I think he's a pretty exciting player, and he is with T Higgins out. I think he's the Bengals wide receiver 3. It's a little bit up in the air as far as who they're going to be throwing the ball to, but I think he's the clear-cut wide receiver 3. So I'm going to have plenty of Audin Tate. Currently, I have 35% Audin Tate. Yeah.
Oh, baby. Oh, see, these are the things I like to hear. 16.1% leverage that we're getting using that top showdown tools. Again, this is why you want to be behind the paywall to be able to get this kind of stuff, or you want to be watching shows with me because I'm giving out stuff like that for free. But Audin Tate, 2.7% captain optimal ownership too. He's only coming in, 0.5% of the time here? What are we doing with Audin Tate and the captain? Do you have some shares of that?
Do I? I have 1% apparently of Audin Tate and the captain. Okay. So not a ton. I guess he allows you to get in all these other players that you want in your lineups. So if you're playing a full salary, I guess he can help you get in the Burrows, the Mixons, everybody else you want to play. So he makes some sense there. I definitely would not, second guess somebody who's playing Audin Tate in the captain spot. I'm actually surprised I only have 1%, to be honest. I would have thought I would have had more naturally, but I'll take what I have and hopefully he's not, because I'd rather have somebody who I have 20% of be the optimal captain. But
you want to start fixing like 750 lineups on a live show?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever experienced stress like that before in your life?
I have.
Okay.
With lineups, specifically with trying to build lineups at the last minute, I have. But I don't know if I could do it on a live stream. That's a good question.
All right. I love it. So I'm not going to do that to you. You shouldn't do it to yourself here. But yeah, 1% is fine. But I think I would even, if I'm making 150, if you're watching this show right now, maybe give that a little boost up to get over that, because there's a lot of leverage to be had on Audin Tate right now.
Yep.
That's all. I'm going to finish out. Let's go to the Jacksonville side here, because this one is not as clear cut to me. I thought earlier in the day I was going to be getting to tons of Marvin Jones, and for whatever reason, that didn't necessarily happen. On Yahoo it happened, but on DraftKings, I'm getting to a ton of DJ Chark, mainly because out of these three, he's garnering the least amount of ownership. I'm finding builds where I can leave that 1,400 in salary off the table going from Marvin Jones to DJ Chark. I hand built a lot more lineups than I normally do today, just because I wanted to be able to help out with the show and do all the things that I need to do. But what are you doing as far as these 3 wide receivers go? Because Laviska Shenault, I just feel like he's going to troll us all tonight if I don't have him.
Yeah, so Laviska Shenault, I think, became a little bit more interesting with the Carlos Hyde news, right? Because they use him at running back sometimes. They try to get him the ball in interesting ways. So maybe he's the backup running. I mean, for all we know, it's not Dare Ogunbowale at all. It's going to be Laviska Shenault doing more running back things.
That would be great.
So I definitely gave Laviska a little bit of a boost after the news with Carlos Hyde. I'm getting just 20 to 25% of all of them, it looks like, which, you know, if I had a little bit more time, I might have tried to get a little bit more of Viska specifically, but probably all 3 of them. You know, they're just, you don't really know, but any one of them can go off for 100 yards and a touchdown. And at that point, you're going to be in the optimal lineup. So I wish I had a little bit more than 20 to 25% of each of them, but I'll take what I have.
Exciting news. Loco just got his lineups in well ahead of time. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for rubbing that in. Yeah, congratulations.
Proud of you.
We're so proud of you. I like that Neil can just be comfortable trolling Loco right off the bat too.
Of course.
Loco's like my dad here at Awesemo. He
Loco's
just keeps me in check. He keeps me in check as he needs to. And he beats me up when it comes to fantasy football because he absolutely owned me and my soul last week in the B League. But we're not even going to talk about that. We're going to round the rest of this out. As far as wide receiver goes, do you have any deep shots you want to take? Tavon Austin is active here for the Jaguars. I mean, isn't he just, we have a 0 projection next to him, so probably don't want to be going that direction. Anybody else? I mean, there's Trenton Irwin from the Cincinnati side. I don't have any of him. Is there anybody else that you're getting shares of at the bottom end?
I'm getting shares of Mike Thomas, and I'm getting shares of Trenton Irwin, but like I said, I'm playing over 200 lineups on DraftKings. So I don't know that I'd recommend either of them. In fact, I know that I probably would not recommend either of them. If you're playing 20 or fewer lineups, they're definitely, 150 lineup type plays, but they have projections. I mean, on Awesemo, they have projections. Thomas has a 3.16 projection, which tells me he's probably going to get targeted. Who knows if he could take one to the house. Those are the kind of guys that you kind of need to take shots on in Showdown, in big tournaments, if you're playing a lot of lineups, but otherwise, probably not. There are enough good plays on the slate that you don't need to necessarily be taking those shots.
But I want to win $1 million by myself, Neil.
All right. Well, then just set your salary cap at 45,000 and go for the best.
Oh man, just absolutely roll those dice. Let's go tight end here. Let's go to tight end. We've got how many minutes? I don't even know. It's got 25 minutes. Oh, beautiful. We're doing great.
Plenty of time.
I just wanted to make sure. I'm so just paranoid of your lineups. I really could care less about mine right now. I'm just making sure you're all covered. You're taken care of here at Awesemo on our first show. You're welcome. CJ Uzoma, Jacob Hollister, Dan Arnold. Hey, Arnold. Good times. Dan Arnold, definitely the guy who's got the largest projection, but he's got less ownership than Uzoma and Hollister. How does that work out?
I mean, Dan Arnold's brand new to Jacksonville, right?
Yeah,
so
Arizona
he has the worst leverage score on Awesemo right now. Maybe this isn't updated. I just refreshed it 15 minutes ago. He has a negative 9.2% leverage score on the Awesemo Showdown single game tool, which makes me nervous. I don't know if he's going to play that much in his, he's been on the team for 3 days. What can we really expect from Dan Arnold 3 days into his time on the team? I don't know. I want to play him because he's a player that I have a lot of on best ball, and I'm just cheering for him. But I don't know really what to expect there in his first game.
Are you team completely punt the second tight end on best ball?
Typically, yes.
Okay, yeah,
very much so.
God, I appreciate you very much. This is why we're getting along so well. Jacob Hollister. Are we taking some shots on Jacob Hollister on this slate?
And let's see what I have of Jacob Hollister.
Because he's got the lowest projection of the 3.
Yeah, I have 3% Jacob Hollister. Okay. I like to take shots on the tight ends just because they never project that well. People don't usually try to target the Jacob Hollister type tight ends. So usually you can get a little bit of leverage playing those tight ends in Showdown because, they're not that unlikely to just get one-off touchdown here or there. A lot of quarterbacks like to target the tight ends. A lot of rookie quarterbacks like to target their tight ends. But I still didn't get a ton of really any of them. The most I have 9% Dan Arnold, 9% CJ Uzoma, and that's the most I have of any tight ends.
We have no Darren Waller, Travis Kelce to roster on this slate. And I feel like I end up in the wide receiver range, whether it's paying up or paying down, all the way to the floor for the Audin Tates and the Mike Thomases of the world. So I think we're on board with that as well. That kind of does it for tight end. And before we get to the final segment here, of course, we're going to talk defense, and the one kicker we have on the DraftKings slate, good times, Awesemo Plus tools and content, $29.95 for the weekly pass. All of this stuff we're referring to, the top stacks tool, the top ownership plays that we have for Showdown, the single game plays specifically over there, all of the lineup building stuff that we have at the ready for you, all of it 25% off if you use promo code NFL Showdown LBL. Good Lord, that's a mouthful, but you can do it. It's going to be flashing on the screen, I think, in 5 seconds I didn't even have a countdown. It was already there. NFL Showdown LBL, one word, for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Activate in the description of the video below. And if you want to just check out NFL DFS, we have packages starting at $3.95. But we have promos going. Specifically, we have a promo with another set you need to be utilizing. But $29.95 and 25% off of it using that promo code. Stop guessing, start winning, try it out. I promise you will not be disappointed. These tools, they've made Neil $1 million, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so there you go. Do you need anything else other than that? Do you like $1 million? Yes or no? Did you check? Yes. All right. Check out Awesemo Plus. Easy as that, guys. Now we're going to round in kicker first, because again, we have one of them to discuss. I'm worried about the ownership because there's only one kicker. Are you kind of worried about it too?
I am. I usually like to get over the field on kickers because usually people don't love playing kickers, and especially a game like this where there are so many wide receivers that people will kind of want to play. I would have hoped for low ownership on the kicker, but yeah, you're right. I guess it's probably just because there's only one option there, so people are focused on Evan McPherson. I'm currently under the field. He's currently projected for 26% ownership, and that's massive for a kicker. So I'm a little bit under the field. I'm a little bit sad about it because I just love having more than everybody else of kickers and just cheering for the field goal. It's just fun. But in this case, he's so owned that I have to go a little bit under the field.
We got Brian Train, $1 million, pinky figure to the mouth, $1 million.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. My cycloptic colleague over here. Don't mind me. Mini me, no. Okay, we're going to go over to defense here. I don't really know what to do with defense other than play Cincinnati and don't play Jacksonville. But whenever you do that, aren't they both just random to the point where you're looking for a pick six to end up optimally anyway? I have such a tough time with defense, figuring out what to do in Showdown. Please tell me your ways.
So I'm playing both of them. I have more Jags than Bengals right now.
Love it.
And I don't know that I love it, to be honest. I mean, they're cheaper. By kind
it's
of
like the ownership play. Like everybody, it's a 7.5 spread. Everybody wants to play Cincinnati because they expect them to blast Jacksonville. And if you're looking for the random pick six that matters, don't you just kind of like fire them up on the other side?
And I mean, they can get sacks against the Bengals offensive line is atrocious. So I feel like even the Jaguars might be able to get a sack here and there, force a fumble. You know, they can have some success against the Bengals, I hope. Again, I don't know that I would have wanted to have. I currently have 16% Jags. I don't know that I actually wanted that much, but it's what I have. I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope for the best. I only have 5% Bengals right now, which is something that if I had more time, I would definitely bump up their projection a little bit because they're playing the Jags, and you know, I think they're a good bet to at least force a turnover and maybe take one to the house. But
as I'm talking, can you at least like go in and hand edit some where you have like some left over and just change them?
I probably could. I probably should be doing that, but I have. It's a process for me creating all these lineups, and
oh my God,
I don't think I have the ability to do the show and go through my process at the same time.
Well,
sadly.
Again, we appreciate you. I'm going to give you a minute or two. I'm going to round in a couple of these questions. Everybody fire your questions on in here for the Millie Maker winner over here. We got Neil in the house. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So fire it up. Let me know what you want to know for the Showdown. Also, please let me know the site, because if you just tell me one or the other, it's very, very difficult, because we do have kickers to at least address over on FanDuel a little bit more. This is the first slate I can remember in recent memory where I'm under the field on a kicker. It's so strange because it just never has to be in that situation. I guess Justin Tucker, I've probably been under the field once or twice. Sony Michel lock button, that's not very funny. Let's fire up. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know that people are trolling you about your Sony Michel play. I don't remember why, if you said not to play him, then he did well, or the opposite, but
it was the opposite, Neil.
Okay.
It was the opposite. I said bad things, okay? And nobody's going to let me forget. All right. These are good questions. We don't need the beat today, Jordan Klein. I don't need any more pressure than what we already have here for making sure Neil's taken care of. Smokey in the premium Slack, we're going to start there. Top FanDuel cash captain.
Ooh, so I don't play cash, but I'm guessing it's going to be Joe Mixon for me. Let me look at the Awesemo tools, and then I can answer that.
All right. I don't want to disagree with you on our first show. That's for sure. Joe Burrow might be the guy that I would be opting for. It's the only other. Yeah. It's one of the two. There's nobody else. It's just because I value quarterback a little bit higher on FanDuel. No PPR or half point PPR makes a little bit more sense.
So looking at the tools, you are correct based on the Awesemo tools. And I would definitely, if I'm playing cash, I'm just going with the optimal. I'm doing what the Awesemo tools tell me to do, and they tell me that Joe Burrow is the most likely optimal captain. So I agree with you. It'd be Joe Burrow.
All right. Somebody just said Uzoma is a solid DK play. They're just a play that exists in the world to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have 9% of him, so I don't hate the Uzoma play. That is under the field. The field has 13.5 projected ownership. We'll see where it comes in. I think all this kind of got thrown into flux with the late Carlos Hyde news, but we'll see where he ends up. I like the Uzoma play. We'll see.
Somebody just asked, which captain do you have more of on DraftKings? James Robinson or Joe Mixon?
I only have 18% Joe Mixon, which is something that I would like to rectify, but I only have 8% James Robinson. And I think that is, I would want to be heavier on Joe Mixon than James Robinson for sure, if I had all the time in the world. Just because I do expect the Bengals to be winning the game and rushing late. Give me Joe Mixon there.
Somebody just said, with this tool, what amount of points does Hollister have? I don't understand the entire question. I know Jacob Hollister, as I'm looking at his projection, 3.31 on the old fantasy cruncher machine. So out of the three tight ends that are really kind of your main consideration in Uzoma, Arnold, and him, he's the lowest of the three. Would you agree with that?
Correct. Yep.
Beautiful. Is Neil from Minnesota? I believe you're from Minnesota.
I am from Minnesota.
So beautiful. Where in Minnesota?
To my Can you see my Timberwolves? Yeah.
Dude, that's so beautiful. And we got a Byron Buxton home run. That's basically a national holiday for us today.
Wonderful. Yeah. I didn't even know that. My wife is at the game, the Twins game.
Yeah, I had it on in the corner at the beginning of our show, and then I was getting a little. Yeah, I shouldn't say those things out loud. It's just I was super excited to see Byron Buxton just get to fruition. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. If you wanted to know if I watched the games, I am team watch the Minnesota games. That's also probably why I'm the most depressed person at Awesemo. Did you see my super chat from Arcathelza? Oh my goodness, Arcathelza. Chenault. Over what is it? Reception yards or reception out of backfield? I'm not sure. So the over on reception yards or the over on receptions out of the backfield? I have no idea what that question is asking me. I
do not either.
Arcathelza, if you want to try one more time, go ahead. Put your thing down, zip it, reverse it. It's your from a difference win yet. If you get that, I love you forever, Neil. He doesn't, but that's okay. Jags are going to crush. They are wrong.
I know the rap song. Is that what you're?
It was Misdemeanor Elliott is what that was.
Yeah. I recognize the song. Is that the only reference there, or was there something more to it than that?
I don't know, but I think we need to have a podcast. I think I found my substitute when Rin Pack's away gallivanting in the world.
Count me in.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, dude, love you so much. All right, Robinson or Lawrence tonight?
Robinson
in one
or
line.
Lawrence. In captain.
Yeah, let's do that. Robinson or Lawrence tonight. I mean, that's such a generic. We have a ton of each. There's no way that if you're making 150 or 500 lineups, or if you're making 20 lineups, you're going to have lineups with both of them. But Robinson or Lawrence in one lineup, I'd definitely be preferring Trevor Lawrence.
I would too. And so the optimal tool, or the Awesemo tool, has Robinson in 9.9% optimal lineups. But I think it has Trevor Lawrence at 9.1. So it's close enough for me that I'm just going to go with my preference in that one. And I think I would also prefer Trevor Lawrence just because I expect them to be behind. I expect them to be throwing the ball a lot. So I think I'd prefer Trevor Lawrence.
McPherson in the captain ?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't do it. It's probably not the optimal play. I'll say that. It's usually not what you want to do playing a kicker and captain. But I feel like this could be an ugly game. And ugly games, that's what you want if you're going to have the kicker and captain. I look at 2% McPherson in captain. Again, that's playing a lot of lineups. Don't do it in your first 10, probably. Maybe you want to. Maybe you want to go with the ugly game narrative and throw in kickers and defenses and running backs and skip out on all the quarterbacks. But yeah, it's not something you want to do a whole lot of.
All right, so we got Chenault. I got some clarity, I guess, on the question here. Thank you, Arkathelza. You're good people. Over 42 reception yards for him, or over 4.5 receptions? So this is an NHA related question, I believe. I'm going to pull up our tools here right now as I'm looking at that. Receiving for Laviska Shenault, 40.5. That's a pretty efficient line there. I got to be thinking that if you're going to get Carlos Hyde off the field, if we're going to be looking at a couple of these, gadget plays where he could be a part of one or two, I'd probably be more bullish on one or the other on the 4.5 receptions. How about yourself?
I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say.
All right.
You might just try to get him the ball.
Yep. Just try to get the guy at the ball in space. But then again, Urban Meyer doesn't necessarily do the same things everybody did last year. This guy seems as though he should be given the ball in space.
Right.
Jacksonville versus tight end. I don't know what to do that. Agumbawale going to get garbage time rump offs. I don't really even know about that either. I'm just looking for him to be semi-competent here in the lineups that I just added him to.
Yeah. I mean, he could get garbage time, but he also, are they going to be throwing? I guess it depends on what you expect the game script to be. Do you expect them to be behind by a lot? Do you expect them to be up by a lot? I'm more inclined to play the Cincinnati backup running backs, although they haven't gotten much volume. If you're looking for garbage time, I think that the Cincinnati running backs are more likely to be who you want if you're expecting garbage time than Agumbawale. But if you think Jacksonville's going to win the game, then sure.
Yeah. I see that being positive here as well. Oh man, I have so much 2 Bengals and 4 Jags with 2, it's all Joe Mixon in the captain here at this point. Ooh, I got a bunch of super chats here coming through too. Brady Gagne, thank you so much for the super chat. 50-50 FanDuel lineup suggestions. Thanks guys, love the show. Jam both quarterbacks, play Joe Mixon, move on with your day, probably have a kicker. How about that? Did I crush that one?
That was great. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm saving us all time. But that's the way to do it. Chase. Oh, another one. Weatherman 7. Chase or Mixon at captain in a 2002 entry tournament. So in a 2002, so that's a 2000 field entry tournament. The other will be in the flex. So Chase or Mixon at captain. Give me Mixon.
Yep. I lean Mixon as well.
All right.
And that's what the tools tell us, which is probably why we both lean that way. Because we trust the tools.
Yeah, trust the tools because I have human error. The tools basically are going to be able to do all of the work that I'm convoluting with my own brain and my own takes and my own opinions. Let the tools go to work for you and find that little pocket, the sweet spot, and then use what you know about the game, use what you know about game theory, play it, enjoy it. You'll have fun. Let's take a look. Ooh, that was a nice chug. Well done. I just saw that a second later. You guys think Arnold plays? I think
I don't know. I think so.
I would hope so because he's my highest allocated tight end out of the 3. Again, going back to the tools, highest projection. I'm going to play him a little bit more. Bengals DST in captain in one of 2 lineups. That feels a little thin, but I almost never play defense in captain, and it's gone pretty well, except for when New England just terrorized the world 2 years ago. But how about yourself?
Yeah, I don't think I have. I'm looking if I have any. Oh, I do have a little bit. I have 1%. I have 1% Bengals captain in 200 lineups. It's not something I would recommend in 2 lineups. and partially because I feel like there are enough players in this game that can make things happen on the field. Now it could be a super ugly game. If you're expecting an ugly game, like I was saying with kickers, same thing with defense. If you're expecting an ugly game, it could work out. It's not something that I want a lot of in this game, just because I feel like there are going to be a lot of passes in this game. I think there's going to be just a lot of receptions happening, and when a lot of players are catching a lot of balls, they're, I think, more likely to be captain than in games that are going to be a lot of rushing.
Agreed. Love that. We got another super chat. Neil Orfield just bringing the super chats into the house tonight. Twisted Reality Gaming asks, how do you guys like for FanDuel, Mixon MVP, Robinson, Chase, Boyd, Marvin Jones? If those five can fit together, Yahtzee, but you don't have a quarterback, which makes it a little bit tough for me. I feel like the quarterbacks, just with how they play out and project over on FanDuel compared to DraftKings, or it would be identical scoring for Yahoo there. But what do you think about that lineup? And then would you have any concerns over not having a quarterback there?
Yeah, I mean, always concerns with no quarterback, especially on FanDuel. But also, I would have to know if it is if it's for a tournament or for cash. And I'd want to know how much salary you're using there. Because one of the biggest edges that I find with Showdown and single game slates is just leaving salary on the table. I mean, I force it into most of my lineups, leaving a lot of salary on the table. So if you're using the full salary cap, I would rethink it for a tournament. In cash, I would also rethink it, I guess, because there's no quarterback, and you're probably going to want a quarterback in your cash lineup. But if you are, I think that those are all good plays individually. So if you are leaving a little bit of salary on the table, I like it just fine for a tournament.
Somebody just asked, Jones at captain on DK cash.
Marvin Jones?
Marvin
think so.
Jones. I don't
DK
think so.
cash.
That would be a tough one. I will put, what is our projected optimal? Let me find that out here in 1 second. Calculate 1. We're going for 1. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out right now. Our optimal has Tyler Boyd in the captain. That's interesting. First one right off the bat. It makes sense. You're playing Evan McPherson in that as well. You're playing Chenault, or finding some type of savings there. You're playing both running backs. You want to probably get both running backs if you can as well. But just because that's the optimal doesn't mean you just plug and play that. It's just more of having a frame of reference. Somebody said Tate 2 touchdowns today. I'd be okay with that at this point.
Yeah, that would work out just fine.
Yeah. Same game parlay. Marvin Jones 6+ catches and anytime touchdown plus 390, a good bet. I have no idea. That sounds like a lot of fun though. Yeah.
I mean, run it out and enjoy it, I guess. I don't do a lot of betting. So in Minnesota, you can't legally sports bet, which is just a big enough obstacle for me that I don't do a ton of just. Do you head to Old Canterbury at any point in time? I have been to Canterbury a couple times. My wife's parents actually really like Canterbury. So I've been, but not a lot. That's where I ended up spending. I went there on a Sunday for my 18th birthday after I got back from a golf tournament, went and played a bunch of poker, got murdered, and went home broke. It was great. Those are good times. Being 18, oh man, again, because you can play in poker rooms when you're 18 in Minnesota. It was beyond my wildest dreams. Probably should have been actually good at poker at the time, as opposed to complete crap. Chenault or Chark on FanDuel? All right, I'm going to look at the tool. Mm-hmm. Jake Hardy, this is the most Minnesota show in the history of Awesemo. I'm going to take that as a compliment, considering you've been on 5,000 shows on Awesemo, and this is somehow the number 1. I'll take it. We're out Minnesotian, Jake Hardy. Good to know. Yeah. Man, that is a tough question. So LaVisca, or who was he asking about? DJ Chark? Yeah, so it was DJ Chark or Marvin Jones on FanDuel. DJ Chark. No, Chenault or Chark on FanDuel. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Chenault. Looks like he has a much better leverage score on FanDuel. Somebody said, I'm torn between Mixon and Burrow. Well, it says Nixon. I'm assuming we're not talking about former presidents, but we are talking about football with Joe Mixon. You should have a lot of both. But if you had to make one lineup, once again, that's kind of what I default to. Which one are you prioritizing? Which site? On DK. If I'm just playing one of them on DK, I mean, it really depends on the rest of the lineup too. Is this at the captain spot or in a
Yes,
flex
we'll
spot?
make it the captain here. We'll make it the
All right.
captain.
I would, if you have Audin Tate and another Bengals receiver in the flex. Sorry, was it Mixon and Burrow?
I'll pull it up one more time here.
Sorry.
We've got Mixon and Burrow. Yes.
Yeah. In that case, I would prefer Burrow. If you have running backs and kickers in the flex, or you have, Jaguars receivers in the flex, then I take Mixon. It's really a lineups thing. I mean, it all depends on how does it work with the rest of your lineup. Yeah. Go ahead.
Somebody said, have you guys been to Valley Fair? Of course. It's like right there.
Who has not been to Valley Fair?
Stop it. If you haven't been to Valley Fair, you have no idea. What's the green roller coaster that they built over there or whatever that was? I don't know. It was fantastic.
No,
and then they had the Berenstain Bears when I was like 3. I remember getting my picture and crying with those idiots. Yeah. I didn't enjoy them very much. $5,500, too much to leave on the table on FanDuel. Not in a massive tournament.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
depends on where it is. But yes, in a massive field tournament, I love leaving salary on the table. I mean, that's more than I typically leave on the table. I'll say that, but I'm not opposed to it.
Bengals defense in the flex on DK large field. Yes.
Yeah.
You can definitely do that. There's no problem with it. You got to also just know what the rest of that lineup looks like. You probably don't want to play 5 Jaguars in the Bengals defense #analysis. How about that?
Hey, I almost won a milli doing that last year.
I remember that.
The stat correction after the fact. Oh, that was brutal.
Well, not only that, but it almost that crazy shootout between the Rams. Who is it? The Rams shootout almost had both defenses optimal in a game that had like 90 combined points.
Yeah, that's showdown's weird.
It's just absolutely beautiful. And I always go back to the James Robinson example. We got 30 seconds, so probably nothing I'm going to say here at this point. You had James Robinson as the captain with 5 Dolphins, I believe it was last year too. Good times.
Nice.
Yep. So it happens, but otherwise, everybody, that was the Live Before Lock show. Give a virtual clapping of the hands. Spam the chat with claps here for Neil Orfield here, who just took you up to lock. He's firing away here on the old DK and FanDuel machine, and he showed up. He put in the work. He helped you guys build lineups. So thank you so much to him. Neil, any final words to the people?
Let's win some money.
I love it. I mean, let's go. Thank you so much for entertaining my ridiculous Minnesota-ism, eh? Yeah, no, it's so nice. Anyway, we're going to sign off now. We're going to get out of here. Hi to Jake Hardy there in the chat. Put on the snowshoes. Get ready for the winter. It's coming. We'll catch you later. Bye.
Later, guys.